Welcome back, everybody. I started treating my bees um, with OA, oxalic acid. It's the first week of December, and this is when I do my cleanup round. So I want to go over mite treatments. But first, I do want to cover why we treat for mites in the first place. The, the thing that people may not realize is that it's not actually the mites that kill your bees, it's the viruses that the mites carry and pass on to the bees. So as you know, summertime bees last, they live about 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. I would say 4 to 6 weeks, I think, is probably the average of a worker bee. In the wintertime, your bees tend to hang on a lot longer because they're not out foraging and literally working themselves to death. So they last a few months. So you need good, strong, healthy bees to survive for that leg of winter, for that span. If they have viruses, they're not going to live for 3 months, and they're going to progressively just start dying off and your population's going to dwindle. So that's why we have to start our treatments in the summertime. I use Formic Pro. I went over that treatment in another video. I use that in the end of summer. I try to find my window where I can use the Formic because it is heat sensitive. And then I talked about a cleanup round, and I use oxalic acid, and it's always in the first week of December because that's when I find that the hives are mostly broodless, and oxalic acid does not get under any caps. So if you're going to use oxalic acid when there's brood present, you have to do it in a regimen. You have to do it, so many days apart, and you have to do 4 or 5 cycles of it to make sure that you're getting all of the open brood, which is where the mites live. If they already cap over that brood, it's not going to get down and kill the mites. The Formic does. That's why I choose that in the summertime. But this video is all about oxalic acid. So there's 2 ways to administer the oxalic acid. There's 2 types of devices. There's this guy, which is, we'll call it like a wand vaporizer. This is your cheapest option. It's an entry level. You put your oxalic acid in there, and you connect your leads to a battery, 12-volt battery. And then this is the other style that I actually have started using, and this is the ProVap style, where you put it in a little cup. I'll demonstrate all of this. And it vaporizes through this and injects into your hive. So the things that you're going to need to treat your hives, we already went over the vaporizers. You're going to need a inverter, particularly if you use something that runs on AC. I believe most of these ProVap style vaporizers run on AC, so you have to have an inverter to hook up to your 12-volt battery. I believe most of these entry-level ones all have the alligator clips and run on the DC right off the battery. You could use a jump pack as long as it's strong enough. I've had the jump pack die probably halfway through my hives. I could probably get 7 or 8 hives out of it. So I started just using my truck. I'd back my truck up right to my hives, and I'd get an extension cord and use that. So make sure you get strong enough a battery that's going to last for your whole yard. You can just use a regular marine battery or a car battery if you want to. Just make sure it's nice and charged up before you go out. You're going to need a drill for this style. You don't need the drill for this style. You're going to need your oxalic acid, and this style vaporizer comes with these little cups, and that's how you administer the oxalic acid into here. So that's all the things you need. You should use PPE when using this. It is an acid. Oxalic acid is actually wood bleach, so it's pretty caustic. So eye protection, gloves, and some sort of a organic something that's rated for like organics, a respirator or a mask that will block out the vapors. You're going to see in the video of yesterday that I am wearing 0 PPE. I cannot stress enough, do not use me as your example. I am awful when it comes to that stuff. I hate wearing gloves, And it's just stupid. It really is stupid on me to do that. So shame on me. Don't follow my example. I'm a terror when it comes to this kind of safety stuff. So, and a perfect example is sometimes when this is on there like that and this thing is cooking up, if this nozzle gets a little clogged, this lid will pop right off and it's going to shoot vapor and probably a particulate if it hasn't vaporized yet. So you definitely need eyewear. So PPE, absolute must, even though you're going to see me not using it. I'm going to get set up and do a little mock demonstration here. I was out in the field yesterday and this morning, and I left out some details. It's difficult to actually do the task and make the video, so I figured let me just do an intro video and demonstrate everything in an academic environment. And then I'll load up the video of me in the yard actually doing it in the practical environment. So sit tight, I'll be right back. All right, so I'm all set up. We're going to pretend a little bit. I don't have enough deep boxes to give the actual setup that I use. So normally I use 2 deeps. Some hives have a medium also on top, and that's fine. You can treat with OA with all of that on. So just for demonstration purposes, I have a solid bottom board. If you're using screen bottom boards, make sure you put your inserts in. You want these hives pretty much not airtight. You're never going to get it airtight, but you make sure that your inner cover is pushed forward like that. So that, I'm sorry, your telescoping cover is pushed forward because you want that blocked off so no vapor can really escape. You're going to get some, vapor leakage here and there. There's just nothing you can do about it, and it's okay. So I don't know if I mentioned, you need some sort of towels to block your front entrance. I find that if you wet it, it kind of sticks better and it closes up all your gaps better. You can kind of, seal off all the cracks in the front of the hive. So you would put that across the front. I'm not going to spin the hive around and demonstrate how to block the front of a hive off. I'm sure y'all could figure that. So your first step is you have to drill a hole if you're using the ProVap style. I'll do the wand style next. So this is all pertaining to the Easy Vap style vaporizer. You have to make holes, preferably in the bottom board, and it goes right through. You need just big enough a hole to accommodate that right there. So you'll notice that I have a hole in my bottom box because when this was sitting on a stand, it was probably too close to the ground and there wasn't enough room for the vaporizer to spin around. And I'll show you why you need to spin the vaporizer. So you have your hole all made. So when you plug this in, it's going to heat up. It's going to heat up to about 450 degrees. It's going to go over 450. The controller is set at 450. When it hits 450, the heating element turns off. It'll still go up a little higher. When it goes below, I think 425, I'm not sure what the thresholds are. The thermostat will kick on, it'll start heating up again. So you're going to fill this up with your oxalic acid, which is this stuff right here. Get yourself a little spoon to take out to the field with you to scoop it out. I actually have a 1 gram scooper. So you fill this up. You can't obviously put it in like that. It'll start vaporizing before you get it into the hive. So you're going to configure it all upside down. This thing's all heated up, ready to go. You take your cup, you pop it in. It's a Teflon tapered cup. You insert it into the hole, flip your vaporizer over, and give a tap to that rubber stopper. That'll knock all the oxalic acid into the cup. You'll know that it fell in because this temperature will drop rapidly. It goes down well into the 300s. And then it'll start heating back up. By the time it heats back up to 450, it's probably done. Let it sit a little bit longer. And it takes probably, I'm going to say it takes about a minute. So let it go a little bit longer, and then take it out, and you move on to the next hive because this one's already blocked off. The convenience with this thing is you can do multiple hives at a time. You can do, say, set up 4 hives, block off 4 entrances. This comes with 4 cups. This one came with 4 cups. So you can set them all up, stack them right down the row. Boom, you do this one. It's done. Take it out, move it on to the next one. And so that it's much more efficient. So that's really it. And then you let it sit blocked off for like another 10 minutes because what happens is the oxalic acid is going to turn back into a crystal and it's going to crystallize inside your hive all over the place. The bees are kind of break cluster and they're going to help distribute it around. They're going to fan their wings and spread that all over the place. And then that's how your mite treatment gets administered through the hive. I'm going to set up the hive forward to demonstrate the wand vaporizer. All right, so we have our wand vaporizer. And the reason you're going to see why this one is not as convenient or efficient. So you're going to hook your leads up to a battery. But first, you're going to scoop your oxalic acid into this little pan right there. This whole heating thing, this all heats up and vaporizes all your oxalic acid. So much like the easy batch style, you have to put your oxalic acid in first before you start cooking it because you don't want it to vaporize all on your face ahead of time. So you're basically going to get your oxalic acid all set up in here. You're going to insert it into the hive right up to the handle. So basically your pan for the oxalic acid vaporizer is now somewhere in the center of the hive. You're going to take your wet cloth, newspaper, whatever you're using, and you're going to block that entrance. So that's a little more, another reason why it's a little inconvenient. So you got to block this off and accommodate your vaporizer. Now you hook that up to your battery leads, and this starts cooking. Depending on the manufacturer's instructions, is you have to see how long it takes to heat up. They'll tell you. This here is like I haven't done it in a while. I would say it's probably about a 4 or 5 minute because you have to let the pan heat up. So that's a few minutes right there. Then they say let it sit for a bit more. So you're looking at several minutes per hive. If you do decide to buy a wand vaporizer, try to get yourself one that's dunkable. I think there's only 2 on the market that can really handle being dunked into a bucket. And the reason for that is when you're all done with this hive is done and it's vaporized, like 6 minutes passes by, you're going to take your wand out. You're going to close the hive back up because it's got to stay closed up for another 10 minutes. You can't go and put oxalic acid in here because it's still hot. It's going to start vaporizing on you. So what you're going to do now is put this in water to cool it off. Let's rewind a little bit. You are going to unplug this from the battery before you remove it. In fact, you're going to unplug it after about 3 or 4 minutes and let it sit in there and let it continue vaporizing. And then when you remove it, you're done. Even though this was detached from the battery, it's still going to be hot. So you got to dunk it in water or get a spray bottle and spray it to cool it off. So you can start the process all over again. So you're looking at basically, I'm going to say 4 to 7 minutes per hive, where this guy here, you're looking at a minute and a half, 2 minutes if you want to be safe to let it go. And you also have the convenience of moving on and getting everything set up down the road. So that's how you administer oxalic acid. There's also oxalic acid drip method, which I won't even get into because I don't use that method at all. I don't know why I haven't. I just feel like this is easier. I don't want to drizzle liquid into my hive in the wintertime. It just seems more invasive. You got to take the lid off. You got to drizzle between the frames. I just feel like the vaporization is more foolproof. I may be wrong. I don't know because I've never done the dribble. I just went right to the vapor. So I hope you like the videos out in the field. I'm going to repeat a lot of this, but again, I left out some detail, and that's why I did this video first. So what you do is you just drill a hole. This one already had a hole in it, but I'll demonstrate. You drill, I'll make it a little wider. You drill a hole just enough to accommodate that. So we're heated up to 458. You turn this upside down, like so. You put that in. Put this in. Make it right. Give a tap. You'll know that your oxalic acid dropped because your temperature will significantly drop on your controller. I'm down to 341, 340. It'll probably go down to about 3.25. Make sure you push your upper lids forward when you do this. I just forgot. You want to try to keep as much of that vapor in there as possible. Temperature's starting to go back up. I usually let it finish its whole cycle. When it hits its top temperature, it usually tells me that it's all out of the cup. So if you find you have residue left in your cup, then you know you have to leave it in a little bit longer next time. If you can't get a good seal on the front of your hives and you feel too much vapor is escaping, you could always wet whatever it is that you put to block the front of the hive. You could use, wet paper towels, wet newspaper, old cut up t-shirts. You're going to get some leakage. It's not a big deal. So that's still climbing. It's at 448. We're at 450. It's probably all spent at that point. You see how it kind of leaks out of there? Take your cap off. I could have left this in a little longer. There's not much left in there. There's nothing left really. So yeah, it got its full dose. You do not want to breathe this stuff in. And like I mentioned before, the great news is with this style vaporizer, you can go from hive, like while this one is cooking, you can move on to your next hive and get set up with your little cup. So all you have to do when this is done is take this out and move it to your next set of hives.